Elizabeth Sutton. My best friend growing up was a boy called Craig Laughlin, and I would often go to his house, and Elizabeth Sutton was the girl next door. It was not unusual for Craig and I to climb up onto their 6-foot stone wall and peer over the garden at the gorgeous goddess Lizzie as she went about her moments. Actually, I have a picture of her here so that you can see the love of my life when I was little. So Elizabeth was a few years older than me. She was in my brother's year at school. She was the next door neighbor of my best friend. I can't express how besotted I was with this woman and how I was a very shy kid, so I didn't want to let her know, and I was always trying to figure out how I let this woman next door know how gorgeous she is. We'd do music things, she'd be singing, she had this flawless voice. We had this gala pageant fair thing in our hometown that's been going for a couple of 100 years where we celebrate Mary Queen of Scots. They choose a beautiful person from the school to be the queen. And Elizabeth, of course, was the most beautiful Mirimis queen that we've ever had and ever celebrated. I would get really jealous when my buddy Craig would be around her because he was really tiny. And so she tended to pick him up and sit him on her lap and say sweet things to him as the little tiny kid that lives next door. And I was like, please pick me up and sit me in your lap and hug me. Oh, Lizzie, how I love you. So one year as we're approaching Valentine's, I decided it was time to express my devotion for the amazing Lizzie. And so she doesn't know this part, so I don't tell this part. I grew up, my parents owned a used furniture store. So they would go to people's homes, they would buy all the furniture in the house, including all the knickknacks and bric-a-brac and ornaments that would go. And we would have a blast going through the store, looking at all these fancy things. And one day I was in the store and I saw this trinket box. It was a crystal trinket box with a gold dragonfly on the top of it. In my head, it was a love heart shaped, but when I looked at this online, I was like, maybe it looked like this. And it was priced out of my budget as I was probably, 10, 11, 12 years old. But I remember deciding I was going to save up and I was going to buy this trinket box and I was going to give it to Lizzie. And so I wrote a Valentine's card, I got the little thing, I put it in a bag, I left it on the doorstep for Lizzie, waiting on the moment that she would confess her undying love back to me. And so one day I see Lizzie and she's like, oh, I got your gift. And I'm thinking, oh, here it comes. She's like, I got your gift, I thank you, I have something for you. And I was thinking, oh, she got me a gift in return. She's like, but I don't want to see you, but I've got something I need to give you. And so one of the days I'm at Craig's house, Lizzie sees us there, and she's like, hey, I left the thing on the doorstep, I'm heading out. And I walk over to her front doorstep, and I pick up this bag, and I open it up. And lo and behold, it's the trinket box with a little note saying, this is way more valuable than I deserve to have. I don't feel worthy of it. I want to return it to you, and you can give it to someone that really needs it. And my heart was broken. The moment that I realized my love was truly unrequited and Lizzie would never be mine. The moment that I felt hatred in my heart toward Gary Havlin, who was the one who would be her boyfriend. But that was Lizzie. That was Lizzie. I gave it to her. She didn't want it. I splurged. I expressed my devotion, and it was unreturned. And I was heartbroken. As you can tell, I'm still thinking about it, however many 30 years later. We're crossing the halfway point in John's gospel. And if you remember the outline of John, the book is split in two. So we've got the book of signs, which we've been looking at, which is the first 12 chapters, where they're looking at these miraculous moments that climaxed last week with the raising of Lazarus from the dead. Then the second half of the book we call the book of glory. And so we're transitioning at the end of this chapter, really at the end of the story we're looking at today. Transitioning to the rest of the book is really looking at the Passion Week and the events of Jesus leading up to his crucifixion and his resurrection. But we're going to look at a story this morning that is a really familiar story of a gift that's given. A gift that was given out of affection and devotion and given lavishly. Fortunately, for the lady in the story, the gift wasn't returned as an expression of unrequited love. So let's look at John chapter 12 and see someone do it better than I did. So this is John chapter 12, starting at verse 1. 6 days before the Passover, Jesus came to Bethany where Lazarus lived, whom Jesus had raised from the dead. Here a dinner was given in Jesus' honor. Martha served while Lazarus was among those reclining at the table with Jesus. Then Mary took about a pint of pure nard, an expensive perfume. She poured it on Jesus' feet and wiped his feet with her hair. And the house was filled with the fragrance of the perfume. But one of his disciples, Judas Iscariot, who was later to betray him, objected, "Why wasn't this perfume sold and the money given to the poor? It was worth a year's wages." He did not say this because he cared about the poor, but because he was a thief. As a keeper of the money bag, he used to help himself to what was put into it. "Leave her alone," Jesus replied. "It was intended that she should save this perfume for the day of my burial. You will always have the poor among you, but you will not always have me." Meanwhile, a large crowd of Jews found out that Jesus was there and came, not only because of him, but also to see Lazarus, whom he'd raised from the dead. So the chief priests made plans to kill Lazarus as well. For on account of him, many of the Jews were going over to Jesus and believing in him. This is the word of the Lord. This is a story, just get out there at the beginning. This is a story of extravagant affection. I don't know, the number of times I meditate on this story, the number of times we hear this story, I don't feel that we really grasp how extravagant this moment is. And I use the word extravagant on purpose. If you were to look up definitions of extravagance, extravagance means wasteful. Like we kind of use extravagant now to mean like very expensive things that we're buying. But extravagance really means wasteful, exceeding what's reasonable or appropriate. Extravagance is absurdity in the eyes of the people around you. This is a moment of extravagant, absurd, over-the-top devotion to Jesus. And I think as we think on this story today, I think what I want us to be pondering inside and what I want us to be praying as I'm speaking is, God, would you make me more like Mary? God, would you refresh in my heart affection for you? Would you refill my love for you in such a way that I would express extravagant affection toward you as I walk in the world? So extravagant affection. Extravagant affection is the result of something. It is the overflow of gratitude, abundant, overwhelming gratitude in our lives. The start of the story. Here a dinner was given in Jesus' honor. Martha served while Lazarus is among those reclining at the table with him. And then Mary has this moment of devoted expression toward Jesus. You have to stop for a minute and think, okay, we have just watched in chapter 11, Lazarus, after 4 days decomposing in a tomb, we're watching Lazarus raised from the dead. It is having such an effect that people are coming from all over to see this man that was resurrected and understand what's going on. We have the story of Mary and Martha weeping and sobbing and wailing because their brother is gone. And this weird part in John chapter 11 where Jesus, hearing that he was going to die, delayed his arrival, magnifying the grief that Mary and Martha felt, losing Lazarus, also that Jesus could then prove to them that he's the resurrection and the life and give them this revelation that no other person in Scripture was getting. And so in this place of celebration, the brother that was lost is now back from the dead. So this is a party that's happening. Some translations will say a dinner was given in his honor, or in Lazarus' honor. Some of them put it toward Lazarus. But here's what's happening. There's a party. Lazarus is raised from the dead. Jesus is in town, and they're celebrating. So I imagine Mary is filled with joy as she has a dinner. Like, just think for a moment of someone you've lost. Or maybe it's something you've lost. Or maybe it's a pet that you love that you've lost. Think of something that you've lost. And knowing that tomorrow you could go to a dinner party and have that thing present. Like, there's joy, there's celebration, there's excitement, there's enthusiasm. So I imagine Mary is extremely grateful in the moment of this dinner. I also think back to other parts of the story. You've got the story where Martha's running around busy. Mary's at the feet of Jesus. Martha's like, teacher, why are you not making, she needs to come work with me and help. And Jesus says, no, just leave her alone. Like, she's chosen the better thing. The teacher's here, so she's learning from me. And he celebrates Mary's willingness to learn. I wonder if in this moment, Mary's also overwhelmed with gratitude. That this is the guy who let her sit at his feet, where women are not allowed to be. All the men can be there learning. But here, this woman wanted to come and learn from the rabbi, and Jesus permitted her and celebrated her sitting there. I wonder if she's celebrating that moment. This story of the anointing of Jesus' feet happens 4 different times in Scripture. This is one of them. It happens in Matthew 26. It happens in Mark 14. It happens in Luke 7. And there's debate about whether there's one or multiple occurrences where Jesus' feet are anointed. The Matthew and Mark story and the John story are very harmonious. Matthew and Mark said it in the home of Simon the leper. I wonder if she's experienced gratitude that Simon, who she's invited into his house, so somehow must be connected to him, a leper that's now made whole. I wonder if she's feeling inward gratitude because of that. The Luke account, Luke chapter 7, describes an event which might be the same event or it might be a different one. But it puts it this way. Jesus is at the table and a sinful woman walks in and begins weeping. And her tears fall over Jesus' feet. She breaks the alabaster jar over his feet. She begins to wash his feet with her hair. And the people round about are like, this man can't be from God. If he knew the sinner this woman is, he wouldn't let her touch them. Scholars debate, is that one event and Mary here is another event? I wonder if it's the same person. And if there's also gratitude in this moment. At this person that didn't reject her, that didn't write her off like other people did, that didn't look at the sins of her past and decide she was not someone worth knowing. Overwhelming gratitude. An opportunity to learn and listen from a rabbi. People being healed. A brother brought back from the dead. Sins forgiven. Being welcomed in despite a negative reputation. Overwhelming gratitude. Extravagant affection always overflows with this overwhelming gratitude. And I wonder at times if the problem that we have in the world and in the church and in our relationship with Jesus is we're not grateful enough. I think we have an ingratitude epidemic in the church. We have an ingratitude epidemic in the world. The spirits of this age, the demonic powers, the powers of darkness that rule in the world until Jesus comes back and finally defeats them. Those powers, we said last week, they want us enraged. They also want us dealing with ingratitude. They want us discontent. They don't want us thankful and appreciative of what we have, because gratitude leads to an overflowing of affection for the objects of our gratitude. I wonder if our ingratitude is the problem. I wonder as we look at Mary and we think, I don't have that level of affection for Jesus that she sells on the seashore, that she has for him. Perhaps you look at some other people in your life that pursue Jesus with fervor and you think, I don't have the level of affection or expressiveness for Jesus that they do. Sometimes you may be looking at yourself going, I wish I could feel Jesus more or be more joy-filled about things with Jesus. I wonder if the reason we don't have those things is that we have developed habits of ingratitude and we don't spend enough time rehearsing and rejoicing in the things that he's given us. Where's Cheryl's in the room somewhere, isn't she? Yeah, you're back here. Cheryl is a person filled with joy. And Cheryl's a person that lives in chronic pain, like constant agony, day in, day out. And yet you'd never know it interacting with Cheryl. Amanda's another one of those people, our office administrator. You would never know. Half the time I get prayer requests. We're in Tuesday at our prayer meeting. I'm reading the prayer requests and I'm like, Amanda's in pain. Amanda's medication's not working. Amanda's hip's like an 80-year-old and needs a hip replacement surgery. And she's smiling and she's joy-filled and she's serving, I think because she's cultivated gratitude. Gratitude at the abilities that we do have, even when abilities seem to be taken away. I wonder what would happen to our affection for Jesus and our posture in the world if we became more grateful people. I think our lack of overwhelming gratitude is robbing us of extravagant affection toward Jesus. God, would you fill us with gratitude? Would you help us to experience contentment? May we rehearse over and over and over again the blessings that you've given us, that our lives would overflow in praise for you. Not only does extravagant affection come from overwhelming gratitude, it results in rich generosity. It's what we're seeing in this passage. When you're filled with gratitude, when you're filled with excitement at what God has given us, the only response is that we overflow with a rich generosity toward others. Mary takes this pint of pure nard. Here and elsewhere, they say it's equivalent to about a year's worth of salary. 300 denarii. That's 300 days, 365 days in a year. You don't work on the Sabbath. So that's like a full year's worth of salary that she is pouring out on the feet of Jesus. How many people in here would say, here's what I'm going to do. For the sake of Jesus, I'm going to pull my year's salary out of the bank in cash, and I'm just going to burn it for Jesus. We're like, that's stupid. Why would I do that? That's what's going on in this moment. It's extravagant. It's wasteful. Extreme generosity because of the level of gratitude she's feeling and the depth of the affection she has for this man sitting in front of her. We can be generous with more than money. We can be generous with our words. We can be generous with our time, with our touch, with the gifts that we give, with the ways that we love and serve the people around us. So when we talk about rich generosity overflowing from us, there's lots of expressions that can take. But if we're real, this passage is not about lavish words. It's not about giving nice little gifts here and there along the way. It's not even about the time that she spends. This is about extreme generosity in a way that to the people around about seems wasteful. Gratitude always leads to generosity. The spirit of this age wants to keep us discontent, and by keeping us discontent, rather than become generous, we become stingy with our words and with our hearts and with our possessions and with our time. Love will always overflow in generosity. And here's how you know that's the case. If you are who's a car person in the room? Any car lovers or truck lovers? Couple? If you are a car lover, you will spend money on cars, right? You'll soup it up. You'll buy a nice one. You'll get a new one every opportunity you can. Anyone in here that likes interior design and decorating and making spaces look lovely? At least one. If you love interior design and making spaces beautiful, you spend lots of money on decor and furniture and little knickknacks and trinket boxes with dragonflies on the top. If you're a sports fan, you blow ridiculous amounts of money on ESPN subscriptions and crock pots that say Oregon Ducks or Beavers on them, and sports games and jerseys. If you love crafts, think of all the supplies that you have in your house that you're not using and you realize you might never get to. And if you love Jesus, you would direct all of your resource to the work of his kingdom and to things that bring joy and glory to him. We always give our money to the things that we love. We always overflow with generosity where our affection lies. I'm going to sidestep for a little moment because we're here. Like, there's a biblical principle, right? Tithing is a biblical principle. We are supposed to give. The first big debate Arguably, the starting point is that we give the first 10% of what comes in, of everything we have, our crops, our animals, our livestock, our money. We take the first 10% off the top. We give it to the Lord. We give it to Jesus as an expression of our affection to him, as an expression of obedience to what he's calling us to do. Our affection for Jesus should make that the easiest check that we would write in a month. We give because of overflowing affection for Jesus and gratitude for what he's done. It should be our posture to be like, I have abundance. Like, you might be here and feel poor. You live in the Hillsborough, Beaverton area, so you're one of the richest people on the planet. You have abundance. We should be in a posture when we see people in need. We're like, I'm so grateful for the abundance that I have. Let me give you what you need. But something has gone wrong. When it comes to giving money to God and for God, it's so easy to get stuck in scarcity mindset, right? There's a scarcity mindset and then there's an abundance mindset. The scarcity mindset says there isn't enough to go around. I don't have enough for what I need, so I have to hold tightly to what I have to guarantee that I have what I need. Ingratitude, discontentment breeds a scarcity mindset. We have a scarcity mindset if you're someone looking going, I can't help that person because I don't know if I have enough. But it's funny, I've had friends in the past like, hey, I'm a student. I have student loans, so I don't really have any money to give. So like, Monica and I were missionaries, so we would be looking for people to support us as missionaries. And it's like, oh, I'm really sorry, I really want to give, but I can't give because I'm living off student loans. And it's like, oh, I get that, that's hard. But man, that's a nice new jacket, it's a nice new computer, it's a nice new iPhone 16, that's a nice new MacBook Pro, that's a nice new car you're driving. Like, you have money to give to the things that you care about. And this wasn't like, so give to us. Our thing was always, we want you to have a right relationship to your money. Don't give it to us. Go give generously somewhere else. But don't use that as an excuse to not give what God is asking you to give and the way God is asking you to give it. Scarcity mindset says there isn't enough to go around. I have to hold on to what I have. If I give to Jesus, I won't have enough money for ... But the abundance mindset goes the other way. It says there's more than enough to go around. That if I'm faithful to Jesus to give out of what he gives me, he will not let me go hungry. I might not get the newest iPhone at the time that I want it. I might have to drive a clunker car for a little bit. But he will give me what I need, and he will give me it in abundance, right? John, the whole concept of John's gospel, he will give us life and life of abundance. Many times, and this is a little self-check for you, when it comes to giving to the work of the kingdoms, when it comes to tithing, taking that top 10% of what you earn and giving it to the work of Jesus, a lack of giving in that manner is often an indication of a lack of affection for Jesus and a lack of gratitude at what he's done. And I see it in my own life. Like, I look at things, people come and I get the letters, hey, we're going on a mission trip, do you have money? And I'm like, oh, we're so strapped right now, I have nothing to give. As I sit in insomnia drinking a $6 coffee, I'm like, I can give $6. I can send $12 to a missionary. I can skip a coffee once a month to give someone something. But at the end of the day, my unwillingness to do it is evidence of my lack of gratitude of all the years that we lived as a missionary and other people funded us and they sacrificed for us. It's a lack of gratitude for the abundance that we have. And it's a money mismanagement thing. It's not just a lack of affection for Jesus, but it's evidence of poor management of our money. Like, there are lots of things that Monica and I spend money on. We're constantly having conversations right now. Money's disappearing quicker than it should. Where's it all going to as 20 Amazon boxes arrive outside? Some of them she ordered, some of them I ordered, some of them the kids ordered. And you're like, I know where the money went. We get stuck in this scarcity mindset when it comes to the things of God. We often can get stuck in more of an abundance mindset when it comes to the cars and the interior design and the crafting and the sports. We need God to move in us in a different way. Consider Paul's words to the Corinthians as he uses the example of the Macedonian church. These are people who really were in scarcity. Paul tells the Corinthians, brothers and sisters, we want you to know about the grace that God has given the Macedonian churches. In the midst of a very severe trial, their overflowing joy, an expression of gratitude, and their extreme poverty welled up in rich generosity. For I testify that they gave as much as they were able, and even beyond their ability. Entirely on their own, they urgently pleaded with us for the privilege of sharing in the service to the Lord's people, and they exceeded our expectations. They gave themselves, first of all, to the Lord, and then by the will of God also to us. Overflowing joy, rich generosity. They gave beyond their ability. They pleaded for the privilege of getting to share, all out of gratitude for the saving work of God that had come into their lives. The woman, as she takes this year's worth of money and pours it on the feet of Jesus, is the natural outflow of a heart that's filled with gratitude at what he's done. And the only thing she can do is think to express it in rich, generous, lavish ways that are extravagant and to many wasteful. Extravagant affection also leads us into deep humility. I wrestled with making a whole ton of points here. We could say humility, we could say intimacy, we could say service, we could say vulnerability. Mary takes the pint of nard, she pours it on the feet of Jesus, wipes his feet with her hair, and the house was filled with the fragrance of the perfume. This is a moment of humility where she says, it's not about me, it's about him. I don't care how I look. I don't care the consequence of this for my future. This is about you, Jesus. It's not about what I have or what I need. It's about what I can give to you. It's not about my name and my reputation, but about your name and your reputation. I want to celebrate who you are and do it publicly in the only way that I can think to. And she takes her life savings and pours it on his feet. The humility of the moment and the fact that she's touching his feet. Hands up in the room if you want to wash someone's feet with your hair. Yeah, if you wanted to put your hand up, it was a good call not to. We didn't need to know that. No, I'm joking. It's a moment of humility to get down on her knees by Jesus' feet and be willing to get the muck of his feet on her hair. It's a moment of intimacy. Like there's intimacy and humility are connected, a moment of intimacy, because culturally, if you go to the Middle East today, it's easier to think of a Muslim country. What do you see of a woman's hair? Nothing, it's covered. They believe that a woman's hair is precious and it's supposed to be saved only for their family and the man that they're most intimate with. So the only times that a Muslim woman would ever take her hijab off are in the presence of family, in the presence of other women, or in the presence of her husband. It's an intimate moment for hair to be unraveled and revealed. And this is the moment. This woman walks into a house full of, I imagine, some relative strangers. She'll have some acquaintance with the disciples because she knows Jesus. She might know the owner of the house. There's other people coming and viewing. But she's so enamored by Jesus and so in love with him that she doesn't care what other people see. She lets her hair down in this moment of deep, intimate exposure. It's vulnerable. What might he say if I let my hair down in front of him? What might the people in the room say if I let my hair down? Now, if Luke's gospel and John's gospel are two different accounts, then she's seen what people say when a woman walks in and lets her hair down in front of him. So if it's two different accounts, not only is she in this moment of vulnerability, she's probably going, I know what people are going to say about me because I know the kind of woman that did this before. And if they are the same woman, then even more concern for her as she does it, that she is just living the reputation that she's always lived. And in this humility service, been willing to wash his feet, been willing to anoint him, been willing to love and serve and care for him. Remember Mary and Martha? Martha's the one that's running around in the kitchen while Mary sits at the feet of Jesus. God never condemns Mary for serving. Even in this story, Mary's there serving, giving lavishly to Jesus by serving this meal to a group of people that want to celebrate what he's done. But here's Mary taking on the Martha spirit as she gets down on her knees and serves Jesus. Here's Mary, who doesn't know what's about to happen in chapter 13 as Jesus himself gets down on his knees and takes off his apron, or puts on an apron and washes the feet of his disciples in the manner of Mary. It's not just you guys go do what I did. It's you guys come and do what Mary did for me. Like I got the example from her. Her affection for me is now modeled in my affection for you as I love and I serve in deep humility. It is a prophetic moment. It's a prophetic moment as through her sacrifice, through her generosity, through her humility, through her intimacy, she prepares him for the sacrifice that the rest of the book is going to talk about. Her sacrifice given to prepare him for the sacrifice that he's about to make. It makes me think about the moment, this whole story makes me think about the moment where King David is dancing before the Ark of the Covenant. And his wife, Michal, is watching from the window. And she's like, how disgusting, this man dancing in such an irreverent manner, making a mockery of himself. And David, when he finds out, says, I'm going to dance even more undignified than this. I don't care what you think. I want to dance and celebrate and run around naked in the presence of God because it brings him glory. One of those moments, I care less about what the world thinks, and I care everything about what Jesus thinks. And I want to do everything within my human capability, empowered by his Spirit, to express that devotion to him. And what ways are we living prophetically like this, pointing people to the way of Jesus? In what ways are we giving sacrificially in a way that makes the people round about us stop and take notice, and perhaps judge and criticize? Consider the last part of that story. I think we gloss over it, right? The last descriptor in that story, the house was filled with the fragrance of the perfume. The whole house filled with the aroma. Didn't matter where you are in the house, you can smell it. A whole bottle. There's some people in this room that like to come to church with a whole bottle of aftershave on you. That might be one of them. But you know what it's like when someone overdoes it with perfume, or someone overdoes it with cologne, and the place all of a sudden stinks. This woman has taken a whole bottle and poured it everywhere. The whole place is filled with the fragrance. Again, a prophetic image of how we're supposed to be as the people of God. The whole house wouldn't stink if she just poured out a drip. The whole house wouldn't stink if she just put a little bit in her hands and rubbed it on his feet to make him smell nice. The only way the whole house can be filled with the aroma is when she takes everything she has and pours it all out in a way that's extravagant and wasteful, so that the whole house is filled and everybody knows the extent of the extravagant gift that she did. One of the commentators said, the aroma of Christ does not occur when we give him half our heart, or half our pocketbook, or half our talents, or half our ambition, or half our lives, or half our boyfriend, or half our spouse. It only comes by giving him everything. We say we want to be walking houses of prayer where people encounter Jesus. That means we want to carry the aroma of Christ everywhere we go. I want us as Christians to be so extravagant in the way that we love Jesus that every room we walk into is filled with his presence. What is the most precious thing that you have? What is most precious to you? Is it an item? Is it a person? Is it a place? Is it your job? Is it your friends? Is it your kids? Grandkids? Is it your dreams and hopes? What is most precious to you? Are you willing to give him all of that? Not part of it. Not, hey, my kids are yours so long as they stay in the US. My kids are yours so long as they always live just down the street. My kids are yours so long as they always follow Jesus the way I want them to do it. Jesus, my car is yours, but I'm not going to lend it to people that might damage it. What is most precious to you? Are you willing to give him it all? Are you willing to let this house be filled with the aroma of your intense, extravagant generosity toward him? This beautiful story doesn't end on a happy note. If you remember how the story goes, this beautiful moment of adoration results in criticism and murderous intent. One of the disciples, Judas Iscariot, who's later to betray him, objected, "Why wasn't this perfume sold and the money given to the poor? It was worth a year's wages." The commentator makes sure we know he didn't say this because he cared about the poor. Judas was concerned about the waste, not so much the waste of the money, so much as the waste of it not getting into his own pocket. The chief priests at the end of the story are so fueled by hatred at what's going on and jealousy that people are coming to faith in Jesus, they decide it's not just enough to take out Jesus, but they set their minds on killing Lazarus. to stop people from giving their faith in Jesus. What a horrible thing, right? This is often the way of the kingdom, and it's a hard reality that we face. You give your all to Jesus. He does miraculous work in your life. Criticism, complaint, the enemy's after you. Lazarus just got life back, and now people are out to take it from him. Lavish pursuit of Jesus will always provoke criticism. And there's a reason. There's a reason for this. We judge generosity by the depth of our affection for its object. We judge other people's generosity by the depth of our affection for the object of their generosity. So you're not a car person and someone spends a lot of money on a car. You don't share the object of their affection. Therefore, you judge the money that they spend. If you love cars and I love cars, we'll celebrate our extravagant spending on a Bronco. I'm driving a Bronco. It's someone else's extravagant expense that I get to enjoy. It's not mine. If you love fabrics and I love fabrics, we'll celebrate the number of fabrics that we have in our house. Affection bonds people. Here's how we see it. Anyone know what a Swiftie is? Few people. What are Swifties? People, it's the name for the collective fandom of Taylor Swift. People that love and adore Taylor Swift and celebrate together. You're a Swiftie, I'm a Swiftie. We've got names. Directioners. Bayhive. Do you know what the Bayhive is? Those who love Queen Beyonce. Beliebers. Let's get out of the music world. Any Potterheads in the room? Trekkies. Twihards. That's a fun one. I hadn't heard that one before. And if you're going, that's all going over my head. I don't get any of that. Does anyone know what Beatlemania is? A phenomenon that swept the world when the Beatles were famous and Beatlemania was the thing in the news everywhere. Who are these people? People that name themselves and label themselves by their shared affection, that celebrate extravagant expenses like flying to Germany for a 24/7 prayer conference because we love the organization, spending a ridiculous amount of money to go to Taylor Swift concert. People that label themselves by their affection for the thing that they love. If only there was a word like Christians that we could have that represented our shared extravagant affection and devotion for Jesus, but how much we've watered down that word. In this country, it represents some of our politics, it represents some of our judgment, it represents what we do with our time on a Sunday, it represents the types of people that we hang out with and don't hang out with. It's sad that Christians doesn't mean that we're people that orient our affections, our time, our talent, our finances around the work of Jesus, celebrating his name and the work of his kingdom. What would it look like if we were more like this woman who was willing to give extravagantly out of the affection that she had for him? So what does extravagant affection look like for you today? Might be a gift that you give that's not returned unwanted as you pick up a trinket box on a doorstep. It's an affection that won't be left unrequited, because whatever affection you give to Jesus will be returned by him to you and shared amongst you. It's something that we share amongst one another. May we as a church be marked by extravagant affection for Jesus. May we fill every room we walk into with the aroma of Christ seen in our sacrifices. And may we prophetically point back to the work of Jesus and to the promise of abundance that comes through him. In Jesus' name we pray.